Evolutionary Network Hardcore 2.0, episode 46 coming your way. So we're going to talk about Euro-Pharmacies in the new year 2024. So Euro-Pharma, they've got a lot of cool things coming. They have a restock that they did the end of 2023. So 2024 is going to be a banner year for Euro-Pharmacies. They are a great brand. So we're going to talk about them in this podcast. We're going to go over innovations, as I said, that they're doing. We're going to talk about why Euro-Pharmacies. We're going to talk about the best Euro-Pharmacy steroids and cycles for 2024. Mobster's really excited because he got a package from Euro-Pharmacies today, and he got something that's really, really interesting that he's going to talk about. A really, really cool new thing that Euro-Pharmacies is putting out. And then we're going to finish the podcast with some final tips and tricks as well. So it's going to be a really, really fun show. So let's talk about first why Euro-Pharmacy. So I'll bring in Mobster first to touch on it. You want to talk about the goodies that you got today?
Yeah, I mean, let's do the why Euro-Pharmacies, right? So we do a bunch of approved sources products, approved sources podcasting, as you know, right? They support the website and enable us to do these podcasts, and that's a big part of what we do and what we're about. Okay. I've tried, arguably, and I think Steve has as well, pretty much all our approved sources products at one time or another. But my go-to, Steve, my daily, what's in my drawer here, what's in my stash, 90% of it is Euro-Pharmacies. That's how it is. That's not me talking shit out of my ass or whatever else. That's literally the situation. You pull them up my drawer, you get my stash out, you put it on the table, and 90% of the products in there are Euro-Pharmacies. I have used other companies' products, and there's nothing to fucking matter with them. Absolutely. They work, they're effective, and so on. They also fall within all the parameters that we look for when we're looking for an approved source. Okay. So, for example, and I'm looking at their page, their website, Euro-Pharmacies website right now, the .net one. There's a section on product authentication. There's a lab results page, info. There's information literally on page one about where they're based, what country they're based in, what they're about, how long they've been about, and so on and so forth. So you're looking for that. And in terms of just product breakdown, let me just give you this, Steve. They have injectables, orals, SARMs, peptides, and more. So that's you've got literally. And this is what you kind of think of. Think of the big supermarkets that you go to. The big supermarkets want you to go to them, and they don't want you to go to anywhere else. So what do they try to do? They try to have every single thing that you could possibly need all in one place. Now, let me give you a little aside as an illustration how the product authentication and the lab tests, etc., are all important. Because I had my own supplement company back in the day, Steve, I looked at the standards that companies use to allow them to have food products on their shelves and so on and so forth. So the ISO is one particular standard. There's another one in this country now, which I think is from farm to table, which is called the Red Tractor. The supermarkets, the big supermarket chains in this country, have another one all of their own, and it's probably the hardest in terms of what you need to do to fulfill all the different boxes that you need to tick in order to say that at every single stage, from literally the farm to the processing plant, it has to be tested. It has to be tested at the farm. It has to be tested at the processing plant. It has to be randomly sampled from cartons and boxes that are going on the back of the truck. It has to be batch numbers need to be taken when it gets to the supermarket. They have people that come in, and I actually looked to be briefly employed by one of these companies. It's a shit job, it has to be said. And you go in and you tally up the stuff on the shelves at 2 points. One is to make sure that the supermarket's not being ripped off, and the other one is to make sure that these are products that they're supposed to be. For example, there are companies that will produce products that look like supermarket products, and they're not. And it's things like this that enable the supermarkets to keep a track on tens of thousands of items. So this is how the supermarkets work. What you want is the same in the pharmaceutical industry, and specifically, as we're talking about today, with an approved source that's producing PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, and a great and vast range, right? So Euro-Pharmacies, I've got this stuff down pat. You can see product, you can see how it's supposed to look, you can compare it, you've got batch numbers, used by dates, the whole 9 yards, You've got product description, you've got the lab test specifically. I'll click on this while we're talking. You can check whether the distributor that you're using is one of their distributors. Now, something else, which is super, super important, they have, and I'm just thinking of two, Steve, and I will have others. It's just my knowledge is of these particular two, my experience of these two. They have amazing, and I'm thinking of one particular person, but he's not the only one, amazing company reps. Amazing company reps. One particular fellow that's fucking outstanding as an example of what a rep should be for the whole of the industry. He's really, really good. I know that the motherfucker works at construction, Steve, but this guy is the daddy when it comes to being a rep in terms of helping people out and getting stuff done and so on and so forth. I've yet to see, and this is something that's important, and I think all of our approved sources do quite well with this, Steve. There have been maybe 4 or 5 issues last year, 2023, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of orders. And on the sites that we're on, the forums that we're on, we've probably seen 2, 3 issues come up. And you never hear anything about them again because they're resolved like that. They are shit hot at customer service. They're shit hot at helping you get your orders sorted out. Just as Steve said, I have had an order arrive this morning. When I've talked to the company, one of the things they've asked me to do is let us know how well it was packaged. They want me to keep an eye on the person that's putting this stuff together for me and sending it to me and making sure that they're doing their job properly. I've had zero breakages now, Steve. I'm thinking not one in any of the orders that I've ever placed, and that's one a month, Steve. I've had a breakage or anything missing or damaged or whatever you like. Not one. I think I've had one single issue which was resolved with the following order. Wasn't in a rush, it was fine, sorted out. And communication with them, even when they're shut, has been 2 days max, and when they're open, it's normally a day. So this, to me, is exactly the kind of service, the policies, the procedures, the customer service, the reps, whatever you like, that you want in a company. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I was going to bring it up about shipping. And it's very, very important that sources know what they're doing when it comes to shipping these products. Whether it be domestically or internationally, there's ways to do things and there's ways not to do things. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about that because I don't even know any of the stuff. Okay, but I can tell you, talking to people in the industry, there are ways that you ship a product where it's not going to be flagged. There are ways to ship a product where it's not going to be lost in the mail or it's not going to be delivered to the wrong place. If these people are incompetent and they're shipping out your product and they don't put your apartment number correctly, it's going to go to your neighbor. And your neighbor is going to open up the package, and what do you think is going to happen? It's not going to end up well. So if the old lady, 2 doors down, opens up your package and sees something in there, she's probably gonna freak out. So you gotta make sure these people know what they're doing. They know how to ship the products properly, and they know they're competent when it comes to this stuff. They're not a bunch of drug addicts sending your stuff. When you go and you buy something from underground lab, these people they're drug addicts. They're incompetent. That's why they're doing that for a living. They can't get a real job. They're criminals. Euro-Pharmacies, they employ professionals. These are people who in their jurisdiction it's legal to do what they're doing. So they're able to to do this properly, to ship the products properly, to produce the products properly and get everything to you properly. And they have your back. If something does go wrong, the package gets lost, something happens, maybe something gets to you and there's a vial broken. Sometimes they throw these packages around, with the post office and stuff. They got your back. They got your back. They'll take care of it. And but it's a rare occurrence. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of situations, and you might hear 1 or 2 problems here and there, and it happens once in a while, but they got your back. So they know what they're doing when it comes to shipping. They know what they're doing when it comes to handling. They know what they're doing when it comes to producing the products and all this stuff. And that brings me to this point. when it comes to using these anabolic steroids, it's very important that we use legitimate stuff. Because if we're going to run a cycle and we're expecting to get this type of result or that type of result, and we get something completely different, it's going to ruin the cycle. And a lot of times out there, sources will send out underdose gear, they'll send out fake gear, they'll send out something that isn't what they claim. The big thing back in the day was you'd buy Primo and they'd send you Deca, or you'd buy Anavar and they send you Winstrol or T-Bol or even D-Bol. So they don't check what they're sending you. But Euro-Pharmacies, they vet their products, they know what they're doing, and they produce what they claim to produce, and they sell what they claim to sell. So we've had people actually take the gear anonymously and have it tested, sent off to get tested. And they said, hey, this stuff is legit. I've had it tested. It is legit. 99% purity on these products. So that's a really good thing to have. And that's a secure thing to have, that to know, like, I'm going to spend this much money on a cycle, and I'm going to order this, and this, and my cycle is going to be what I think it is, and there's not going to be any surprises. I'm not going to run Primo and Anavar, and 5 weeks into cycle end up with gynecomastia. And that happens. That happens to a lot of guys out there because they use fake gear, and they're not really using Primo and Anavar. They're really using Deca and D-Bol. So you don't have to worry about with Euro-Pharmacies. Their stuff is on point. And as Mobster said, there's a reason why guys like Mobster use Euro-Pharmacies, guys like me use Euro-Pharmacies, because we know it's quality, and we know when we use it, we don't got to worry about that. We got enough to worry about on cycle, okay? It's enough of a war using anabolic steroids in lifting and having to deal with all the BS, the injuries, the sicknesses. Mobster just had a sickness he went through where he was like bedridden. We got enough to worry about. We don't got to worry about shit beyond our control. So this takes a big worry away. And it's not something that we went through, Mobster and I, 10, 15 years ago, when you'd buy steroids online or buy from a gym dealer. You had no clue what you were using. You were just gambling. You were taking a chance. But now with a brand, a source like Euro-Pharmacies, you can be rest assured you don't got to worry about that. You can worry about other stuff on cycle. You can worry about the traffic driving to the gym instead of worrying about stuff like that.
Let me talk about, this is a kind of brand thing, guys, right? So I will, hands up, if you do this podcast, and I've said this online a million times, maybe it's my age, Steve, just the way that I've become at my age, old grumpy motherfucker. I've never been a brand kind of person. I don't need labels on my clothes to represent certain companies. I don't need to sort of allow the world and have whatever the thoughts they like about whether I'm wearing Gucci or not wearing Gucci or whatever, right? Can I afford it? Yes. Do I want to wear it? No. Do I give a fuck? No. Right. But what happens, and I think that specifically PEDs, we used to have all kinds of brands back in the day, and you got what you got. So long as it did what it said on the label, that was good enough. So at some point, and I'm probably thinking of the last 10, 15 years, and especially as I've become more aware, which is the last 5 to 10 years, we've been fortunate, and Euro-Pharmacies is a great example of this, to have companies, and this is why Euro-Pharmacies is an approved source again, where you recognize that the name associated with the product actually does mean something. I've become, again, I suppose, a little bit picky. I can afford to occasionally, Steve, try out different kinds of food or whatever else. But that's different. That's new. That's from a different country. I've not tried that before. Let's have a go at it. Oh, that's fucking lovely. Or I don't like it, or whatever. So when it comes to putting a drug into my body, I would, especially I'm ill, still recovering right now, I'll take anything, man. If you want to cure me, what you got? But at some point, you're going to say, right, I know that this works for me, and I feel a lot better on it. And I'm killing the fucking bacteria or whatever, and I'm recovering. Let's stick with the shit that works, right? So the same thing applies to Euro-Pharmacies. You go, okay, I have used multiples of their orals and multiples of their injectables. And as an example, I've talked about running one company's product for a cut and being successful. And one Euro-Pharmacy product was the bulk, which I followed it up with. I got to my all-time heaviest running 2 steroids that I've used in the past to bulk up on. And I should arguably be, Steve, at the point now in my lifting career, my age, etc., not really looking to get much bigger and so on and so forth. And yet, in 4 weeks, I got to the all-time highest body weight I've ever had in my life. On a couple of lifts, as you know, Steve, recently, and this has included just very, very recently, I've broken PBs on specifically the bench press using Euro-Pharmacies products at the age of 59. So I've actually written in my training logs online saying, how the fuck am I getting stronger at my age? I shouldn't be getting stronger at my age. I should have peaked when I was in my mid-40s. And I'm doing that with the assistance of Euro-Pharmacies products. So at some point, Steve, I become, in a small way, and especially when it comes to PDs, a brand guy. I go, okay, there are companies' products. I've used other companies' products which work, and they are fine. But my daily go-to, I know this is going to work. I know that I don't have to think about it. I can just pick this up and it does what it says on the tin. It's not fancy. It's not frilly. It's not super expensive. It doesn't claim to be something that it isn't, and so on and so forth. It does what it fucking supposed to. Get to your all-time highest body weight and your best ever bench press at the age of 59 is just crazy. But I've done that with Euro-Pharmacies products. So for me, it's golden. It's become like a brand. I've actually said to the pre-show to Steve, and I've discussed this with one of their distributors, their resellers. I'm actually thinking about having a Euro-Pharmacies distributor company name T-shirt made up for me to wear when I'm hitting PBs. Because why the fuck not, Steve? Because I think that's how much I think of the brand. I wouldn't normally say that kind of stuff. And I said, the other brands are fine. Absolutely. We wouldn't say that they were if they wasn't. But these people, for me, are my go-to. They're pushed just ever so slightly to the front, and the other guys ever so slightly behind. And I mean fractionally, because the quality across the industry is a lot better than it used to be. But there's something else as well. And I'm going to touch on this in a moment. When you look at their website and you click on it, I think this is a key point as well, Steve. They're not, regardless of whether you call a product a staple product, like, for example, Dynabol, they're not resting on the laurels. I think there's someone at their company somewhere, and this is exactly how it should be, that sits down and says, okay, this works, it does what it's supposed to, but can we improve it? Can we make the sachet better? Can we make the vials better? Is there something we can do in the distribution chain? Is this okay? Is there something that we can add to it? Can we make it purer? Can we make the quality that little tiny bit better? And someone is somewhere in that company, that's their job. I think it's one of those things where you get good at something, Steve, you can kind of get lazy. I've been like that. Get real good. I need to be hungry in order to improve. There needs to be a driver for me to get off my ass and get better when I was already good before. And it's very easy for companies to do that. And sometimes they need competition from other companies to come in and say, right, whoa, we got comfortable. Now we need to get hungry again. Euro-Pharmacies to me are hungry all the time. You look at the product, the way that they talk, you look at their reps, you look at what's going on, and they're kind of like doing that daily, not waiting for competition to come, not waiting until they fuck up, not waiting until there's an issue. No, pushing all the time to stay exactly where they are, at the forefront of many people's PED choices when it comes to buying brand name in the industry and putting it out there for you to use and saying, look, doesn't have to have a fancy label, just needs to do exactly what it's supposed to. Goddamn, price is right, let's fucking rock and roll. So yeah, for me, Euro-Pharmacies is right up there. Using Euro-Pharmacies products in 2024, Steve. Right, so guys, it's now 2024 as we record this podcast, and we've talked about on other shows New Year's resolutions. So I'm going to ask, and I'll get Steve to come back in now. I'm going to say, right, what this is for you, the listener, and please post this kind of stuff in the comments. What is your aim? What are you looking to achieve in 2024? And how can Euro-Pharmacies help you do that, Steve?
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, very, very important whenever you're rebooting. When we were kids, we used to play video games. I'm sure a lot of you today too grew up playing video games as well. And whenever things weren't going good in the video game, you just hit the button and reset. That's what Mobster and I used to do when we were kids. Today, you probably just you hit a button on the controller or whatever, and you reset the game. You start over, you start fresh, and that's what life's all about. I mean, life's full of trial and errors. We see stray cats. I have stray cats where I live, and it's the life of the cat. You see them one day, they're over by the pond trying to get into the tree to get a bird. The next day, they're behind in the neighborhood behind me, going through some trash, trying to find something to eat. And the next day, they're at my house, meowing. They want me to feed them some scraps. So, and that's life. Life's full of up and downs. Every day is going to be different. So what you got to do sometimes is, whether you had a really good 2023 or had a bad 2023, 2024 is a brand new year. So what you do in 2024 is you start fresh. I'm going to start fresh for 2024. I'm going to 2023 didn't go good for me, so let me just reboot. Instead of being negative and going into negativity, I'm going to start 2024 on a good note. So I'm going to get a Euro-Pharmacy cycle, and we're going to talk about cycles and stacks that are great for 2024 in a second. But one of the strategies you can do is go on the Euro-Pharmacy's website and go through. And you can go through their injectables, you can go through their orals, and you can pick out a cycle for yourself. We're going to give you some ideas later in the show. But that's a great way, if you had a bad 2023, whether it would be bad in terms of your health, whether it be bad in terms of your fitness, whether it be bad in terms of financial, whatever, you can turn 2024 on a good note by doing it that way. It's very, very important. Now, let's say you had 2023 being a really good year. Things weren't really good for you financially. Things went good for you. You hit PRs, whether it be your strength PRs, whether it be the mirror PR, looking in the mirror and be like, wow, I look the best I've ever looked. You want 2024 to be even better. Okay. We want to be better in 2024. We want to keep it rolling. So you have to have the attitude where, you know what? Yeah, you know what? It sucks. I've had years like this, Mobster, where I had a really, really good year, and I'm like, shit. I start the next year and things don't start out well, whether it be financially, whether it be my fitness journey, whatever. I lose some strength, or I lose a couple abs on my stomach. I go from a 6-pack to a 4-pack, because that's what you do once you get older in your 40s. You have to shuffle between having a 2-pack, a 4-pack, and a 6-pack. It's not so easy to have a 6-pack year round once you get older. So it's something you have to keep pushing for. So even if you had a good 2023 going into 2024, it's very important to set goals for 2024 to push
Yeah,
yourself even further and shoot for something even higher. And yeah, I'm bringing Mobster. He wants to get in. Go ahead.
yeah. So listen, right. Um, I'm thinking typical gym user really isn't the person that listens to this podcast. Our audience is going to be a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more gung ho, and wants to kick ass, take it up a notch. Okay, so here's the thing, and this applies to me again, and I touched on this at the beginning of the show. Right? If I sat on my ass and said, "Oh, I'm strong enough, I'm big enough, I don't need to get better, I don't need to get stronger," right? Then I would probably slide. And in fact, I read something the other day, Stephen. I can't think of it was someone kind of famous saying that the only way to constantly, even just to stand still when they'd got to a certain age and a certain level, and I think we're talking about Olympia level in the example I'm thinking of, was to keep fucking pushing, right? So you might have had the best, and even what I've just said for myself, I might have had the best year bench pressing in my fucking life, Steve, in 2023. So it would be super, super, super easy for me to go, do you know what? How that I can't even I've even said this already. I can't understand how it was the best year I've ever had for my bench press. How is it possible? How is it that a nearly 60-year-old man has improved again? But there's something that's taken me like 15 years to get better than, which is crazy. So it would be very, very easy for me to sit on my hands, sit on my ass and say, man, you just killed it in 2023. You don't need to push hard anymore. The truth is you must. 2024, I don't care what year it is, Steve. You should, in order even just to stand still with your 6-pack and your cap delts and your little waist and looking great for the beach. In order to keep looking good, you need to push. Now, if you want to take it up another notch again, and I'm going to sound like a motivational speaker here, you need to push fucking harder. You need to reset. You need to sit down and go, what are my goals for 2024? How am I going to get there? And how Euro-Pharmacies is going to help me? And you need to do that every fucking year. You need to, if you fuck up, you reset. Right now, Steve says, and you can hear it in my voice, I'm getting rid of the old fucking germs, man. I'm getting rid of the pneumonia. So a couple of weeks, last week, this week, maybe next week, it's going to be a struggle. And, you know, the pneumonia thing on the chest, that fucked me up. But I don't need to breathe really a great deal, so to speak. Steve said that's going to take longer, but it won't fuck my bench press. It'll be a week or two, and I'll go back to the gym. I'll start light, and I'll bring it up real quick, 2-3 weeks. So I'm resetting 4 weeks. And then I'm going to push to that 200 kilos that I fucking know. I'm probably going to get better than 200 kilos because we're still in January as we record this show. My goals are that. Your goals can be different, but your goals need to be, for want of a better word, hardcore. You need to have something. I think the phrase that I see people talking about in singing now, Steve, you need to have something which is fire. It's said in exactly that way. You need to write something down, have a declaration of intent, and you say that I'm going to grab 2024 by the fucking balls. And if I had a good year last year, you want to see what's going to happen this year. And will Euro-Pharmacies help me make that happen? Fucking right they will. And that's how you should think. That's how you should feel. That's when you go out there and have the best goddamn year, the next 12 months that you've ever had when it comes to gym goals. I don't care if it's running, swimming, climbing walls, lifting weights, building a better bicep. I don't care. That's for you. But we want you to go out there and make that fucking happen every year. But now this year. So we're talking about 2024. Right, onwards. My next subject here, Steve, is 2024 innovations. Just in the last few months, and I'm going to include it in 2024 because it's going to go gangbusters this year, I think. Euro-Pharmacies has been out there doing little things that I hadn't seen in the industry before. I'm not saying it's never happened, and maybe it's just the first time I've seen it. But for example, their 15 ml vials are something that I don't think other companies are doing right now. Maybe it's been done in the past. Maybe the pharmaceutical companies have done it in the past. Don't know. But certainly the last, excuse me, Steve, 10 years or so, I haven't seen this. So they're bringing something new to the table. They're going, right, what else can we do? I'm going to give an example, Steve. I think looking at their product line, they had one, which was a cypionate. I've got one of these on my desk right now. It's in the order this morning. But if you look on their product line right now, Steve, and you click on injectables, and you go to the bottom, they've got, I think, 6. So they've added in 2 months, 3 months, they've expanded the line 300%, 400% more. And they're doubling up all the time. They're going to do that, I think, right across the range of all of their injectables. So every single one of the injectables will be available as in a 10 ml vial, which is a standard industry item, but also a 15 ml vial. They're going to do it in varying amounts per milligram per mil. So you're going to have more products in bigger vials on their reseller site. It's the same fucking price. So you can have it at 10 ml if you want. And maybe that's sufficient for your cycle. Or you can have a longer cycle using a 15 ml, and it's the same fucking price right now. And that might not stay that way forever. So go out and grab it. If they're doing that again with across the product line, they're adding more peptides. So, for example, Steve, and I'm trying to think now, and I'd have to double check. So I don't want to state on the podcast it's this thing, but it wasn't. But I'm pretty sure they had last year, early last year, 3 or 4. And now they've got 20 plus. So they've expanded their peptide side. Their SARMs is a solid product. Peptides is there, injectables is there, orals is there, and you're talking about HGH, you're talking about ancillaries, and they're adding to the product line. There's something else as well, and you don't always see this. Some companies find, right, we like the format, we're going to keep it this way. If you go to their orals or injectables again, Steve, you can see that they still do vials and amps. So you can have it in the box with the amps and do it separately if that's what you want, or you can do the standard 10 and now, of course, the innovative 15 ml vials. So they are allowing you the option to have it as they say in certain fast food restaurants, you have it the way that you want it. You can have it exactly how you want it. You want it cooked this way, we'll cook it a certain way. So they're doing this with the way that they're presenting the product to you. They're giving you the choice to have it how you'd like it to be. And in fact, I think I recall something, we're talking about innovations, and I'm thinking again of their super reps, so to speak, where there was a post on one of our forums, Steve, where the company, through the rep, said, you tell us what you want us to have. Tell us what you want to see. That's what their interaction with their customers is like. Literally asking the customers what they want, how they want it presented, what milligram per mil they want, everything. What company says to you, Steve, will you buy this if we produce it? What company is going to say to you, you don't go to the supermarket, car companies, whatever else. You don't get to go in and say, I would like it to be this, this, and this. There's too much of that kind of stuff in some of fucked up ways, and you end up with an amalgamation of something that's been produced by a committee. It looks a bit weird and it's fucked up and really doesn't sell. But when it comes to PEDs, if it's going to sell, we'll produce it for you. If it's going to be useful to you, we'll make it. And this company is asking you to tell us what you'd like to see. Do you want a 250 mil version or something, or 300 mil version or something? Would you use it if we made it? That's kind of out there, Steve, because again, lots of companies don't really have that interaction. You get great reviews, you might get customer feedback on forums and so on and so forth. But what you're not getting is a company saying, tell us what you want, how you want it, how it wants to be produced, in what form. Do you want it in a vial? Do you want it in an app? You let us know, and if enough people are interested, we'll make it, we'll produce it, and we'll let you have it, and we'll put it out there, and it'll be an awesome price. And then give us your feedback, then give us your reviews. So I love the way that they're doing that particular stuff, Steve. And again, I'm trying to think. That's the only post of that type I saw in that particular way from an approved source last year. So that's the stuff that's right out there again. I can think of maybe one other approved source that's pushing it in terms of how they're responding to customers, and I'm thinking in terms of their technology, etc., talking to professional bodybuilders and so on and so forth. So there's stuff out there. I want companies, you mustn't be resting on your laurels. You must be trying to innovate. You must be trying to upgrade. What do you think about all that, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just shows you how much, confidence they have in their products, and how much confidence they have, top to bottom, where people aren't stubborn and say, you know what, this is how it's going to be. I'm not going to be flexible on any of this. I'm gonna come and give an idea. Hey, let's do 15 milliliters. We got a lot of guys who are using our products who are competing. It's gonna save space in their closet. Instead of 3 vials, 2 vials. Because now you got 30 milliliters with 2 vials instead of 30 milliliters with 3 vials. Instead of, and it keeps going. Like if you're competing, you got to get a lot of gear. So you're saving space. You're saving 50% of your space in the box that you're keeping your gear in. That's an idea. And it takes someone at the top who's not stubborn and not stuck in their ways to say, you know what? Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's see if customers would like this. Let's ask if they'll like this. Okay, we have some customers saying, yeah, we'll like it. So let's do it. Let's make this an option. Let's see how it does. Let's see how it sells. And if it doesn't sell well, we'll go back to the 10 million. It's no big deal. But that just shows you the kind of flexibility that they have where they can do that. And it shows you what kind of pricing power they have where they can afford to experiment with things like that to see if customers use it. Because if it doesn't work out and no one buys it, then be like, you know what? We tried something new. It didn't work out. We're going to go back to doing it the other way.
It's a great sign, Steve, I think, also of confidence in what you're doing, confidence in your product. If I use an analogy here, if I was coaching someone, and we see this in coaching all the time, and we're actually being kind of successful, but it's not sexy and excitingly successful. And this person doesn't realize it. In a year's time, they'll be twice as strong as they are today. And someone else is out there banging the drum going, I can make you 3 times as strong. And they don't realize that it's incredibly hard, etc., etc. And they go after the new coach, and then they're coming back to me going, he was pushing me too hard. I got fucked up. I got injured. You didn't fucking get me injured, and we were still kicking ass. That's exactly what I did, because I knew that I was doing what was right. I knew that you were going to be stronger, and so on and so forth. It's confidence in your ability. It's confidence in product. I'll give you an example again, Steve. So one of the things I've got on my desk here, again, this arrived today, is the testosterone blend, which is similar to Sustanon. In fact, they do a Sustanon and a testosterone blend, which are more or less identical. And they have a double label. So, and this comes from the pharmaceutical industry again. So it's taken something they've seen elsewhere, which is fucking useful and great, and then they applied it to their own product. So they have a way that you can peel the top label off to see what's down underneath and read about product information, recommendations, how to use it, and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things that you see. Other companies will have a single layer, and it's literally tells you what does on the label, and that's it. So you got stuff like that. Other one, for example, with the Cypionate, which is on my desk as well. This stuff is printed right onto the glass. That's expensive. That's expensive, Steve. That kind of sort of slightly 3D type printing which sits on the glass itself is way more expensive than the peelable labels. It's not easy to do. And again, in an industry where it's too easy to sit on your ass and not change things and not spend that kind of money and not want to come across in that particular way, why should we? You're still going to get what we said. It's no. EP's out there going, we're going to push hard to see if we can make our product stand out. We're going to make sure that our product is supreme quality. I'll use this example again, Steve, which it comes from the car industry. And I was watching a video yesterday about luxury SUVs. And one of those luxury SUVs at some point was the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. All the others are really, really fucking nice cars, Steve. Huge, great beast. 400, 500 brake horsepower, lots of money, six-figure plus, getting up into $250,000 and more. And every single one was luxurious, etc., etc. But there was a comment like, when we got into the Cullinan, when we got into the Rolls-Royce, it just felt that much different. There was something about it in the space and the sense of space and the sense of money being spent and so on and so forth that made it stand out. A couple of the other cars were right up there in the price, but it was things like they were tapping on the grill and it turns out it was like a chromed plastic, not metal. And that sense of space was there, but the Rolls-Royce just had something about it which is different. And that's what you're kind of looking for. If you was going to put yourself into the luxury SUV market as a PED company, to use the analogy, you go off and you look at what's the best that's out there. What is it about that car that makes it feel that particular way? Why does it feel more spacious when it isn't? Why does it feel more comfortable when we've got the same materials in our car? What is it that they're doing that we're not doing? And then you apply that to yours, because it's costing the same money, Steve. I think, the top end two top end cars, one was the Rolls-Royce, one was something else, for $400,000. What is it that how they spent the money on that $400,000 car that made it feel better? What is it that we can do with our product line that makes it feel like a $400,000 car when it comes to the innovations, when it comes to the layers, when it comes to the printing, when it comes to the products, when it comes to product testing? What is it that we can do for our customers in terms of customer feedback, how we respond to them, how we get orders issues sorted, how our packaging is on point, and how can we keep doing that so that we stay at the forefront of the product that your choices will be made when it comes to PEDs? How can we do that? And they are doing it. So I absolutely love that, Steve. Like I said, for me, just as an example, they've expanded on the 15 mil line. They give you the different options, and they've upgraded into the peptide line and expanded on that from what I believe last year was half a dozen, 4, 5, 6, something like that, into 24, 25. So they've definitely expanded and added to their product line in that particular way. Now let's have a look at, Steve, the product that we think would be best, our choices for 2024 in terms of AAUs and cycles and so on and so forth. I'll let you start first.
So as we said earlier, look, Euro-Pharmacies, they have it all. I mean, they have the ancillaries, on-cycle, post-cycle, orals, injectables. So look, what's best for 2024? Here's my advice. Try something different. If you spent 2023 bulking, why don't you try cutting? So let me give you a cutting cycle from Euro-Pharmacies, for example. So you can go to their orals, and you can get some of the orals that they have. And going through, they have an Exondrel X 10 and Exondrel X 25, which is Anavar. And you can order that. You can try stacking that if you've never used your pharmacy's cutting. If you've spent 2023 bulking, try to switch to a cutting, see what happens. I know a lot of you out there, you are perma bulkers, you just want to get stronger in the gym, but try a cutter. It's not going to kill you to try something a little different. And what you can do along with it is you can stack Primobolan. They have a Primobolan option from Euro-Pharmacies, which is really, really good. So they have a Primobolan acetate and they have a Primobolan depot, which is enanthate. So you can pick either one of those and you can go ahead and try a cutting stack with the Anavar and the Primo, and then you can go ahead and stack in a little testosterone with it. They have different options of testosterone. They have a sustanon option. They have a testosterone base, but I don't want to recommend it in this situation. But let's say you want to take something pre-workout, you can go with their TNE, which is a testosterone base. They have a testosterone cypionate. They have testosterone enanthate. So keep it simple on this one. Go with the testosterone enanthate because you're using the Primobolan enanthate. But if you go on the Primobolan acetate, then you can go ahead and use something like testosterone propionate with it. And you can go ahead and inject it more often. So they have you covered either way. And the way I would play this mobster is I would do testosterone really, really low, 100 to 150 milligrams a week. I would do the Anavar about 50 milligrams a day. You can fluctuate it a little more or a little less if you want. And then I would go with the Primobolan around 500 milligrams a week. Again, you can fluctuate it a little higher, a little lower, depending on where you're at. I mean, if you're a bigger guy, 250 pounds, you may want to run it a little more, maybe 600 milligrams. If you're a smaller guy, like me, 5'6" type of guy, then you can go a little lower and go 400 milligrams. That would be good. So a lot of different ways to play. But the nice thing about this stack mobster is this is a cutting stack that used to be extremely expensive back in the day. Okay. But now Euro-Pharmacies makes it affordable. It's not expensive to buy either one of these. So I'm going to switch it around, mobster, and I'm going to let you give a couple, but I'm going to switch it around. Let's say you spent 2023 cutting and now you want to change. You want to go to more of a bulk. I got a good bulking cycle for you. So a really good bulking cycle, you can start with the EP. I know you're going to like this one, mobster. You can do the EP bulk oral. It's called bulk cycle, and it's 25 milligrams of D-bol, and it's 25 milligrams of Anadrol. And they have this on sale right now as I speak. They have a buy 3 and get 1 more free sale on that. So you can get 3 and get an extra 1 for free. You can literally just use that as just the oral and run this for about 5 or 6 weeks and have tremendous results for bulking. And you can kind of see where you're at. Now, if you want to run something a little longer, you could switch and just go with their Dynabol options. They have 2 Dynabol options. They have the Dynabol 10 and they have the Dynabol 25. And this stuff is really cheap. They actually have a sale going right now on them. It's dirt cheap. I mean, you can buy a packet of this stuff less than it's going to cost you to go to some cheap car wash down the street and get your car washed. That's how cheap this is. And look, you can stack it with some testosterone. I gave you the testosterone options earlier. You can stack it with Deca if you wanted to bulk. That would be a really good option. Now with Nandrolone, they have 2 options, Mobster, which is really cool. And I really like this, what they did with the Deca. They have the Nandrolone Decanate, 250 milligrams a milliliter. Usually it's 200 milligrams a milliliter. I like this because now you can inject 1 cc twice a week and you get 500 milligrams of the Deca a week instead of 200 milligrams and just getting 400. I like that. And it really, really cuts down on the injections and it puts more Deca in your system. And then with the Nandrolone phenylpropionate, which is a short-acting Nandrolone, that one comes at 100 milligram a milliliter. And I like that too because that makes it flexible. So that you go in and inject it every 3 times a week. And that would be a really, really good stack to bulk. And what makes Nandrolone so good for bulking, Mobster, as you know, is that it boosts your appetite. So you want to eat a lot of clean foods, boost up your protein, boost up your good carbs, boost up your good fats, and eat 4 meals a day, 5 meals a day, but make them clean. Don't go eating garbage food here. Make it clean food, and you'll have really, really good results on this. And you'll be like, wow, man, I put a lot of size on my frame. So, Mobster, why don't you give us a couple of your favorite Euro-Pharmacy stacks?
I would normally stay with one exception, Steve, I would stick to singular products. But I tell you what, right, and again, I'll just use the cutting analogy that Steve talked about. They've put together a bunch of products where they put the product together for you already. They've said, you're going to do this stack. It's very common. So rather than you have to go off and buy 2 vials, we put it together in one product for you. So for example, and I'm looking here, and I'll actually touch on something else for a second. Looking at the Euro-Pharmacy site itself, they do a blends 350, 400, and 450. Right, so they really, really got you covered there. But again, on one of the reseller sites, they do a cutting mix 200 and a cutting mix 300. And I've used, as you know, using another company's product, which was a 150. So now we'll take that up and we'll add some more to it, and we'll make our product more potent and give you the option to use either a 200 or a 300. They even do a rapid cut 350. So they really, really got in and said, look, we're not making you stick to one item. We're giving you all the fucking options you could possibly need. I mean, Steve, I couldn't believe on the main site they do a SAS 500. So when I'm talking about blends, they've really gone there. And not only have they blended the product because they know you're going to put these 2 products together. Hell, Steve, we know that you can inject them into the same, put them in the same syringe and inject them into the same body part. But they've given you the options for different levels of potency, so that you can either do more or less injections. You can be a newbie to the game. You can be someone with a big experience, or you can someone who's in competition mode. And you can someone with a bit of time or someone with loads of time. You've got 8 weeks, you've got 16 weeks. We got you covered, and we got you covered at the levels and the dosages that you're going to use. So I love that particular one. Yeah. Let me just click here while we're talking, Steve. This is the Rapid Cut 350. I'm going to click on it while we're doing this show, and I'll bring that up on the screen. Right, so here it goes. We're talking about a Tren Ace 75 milligrams, or standalone prop at 75 milligrams, testosterone prop 75 milligrams, and testosterone cypionate 125 milligrams. So that's 4 different testosterones or forms of testosterone in a single product that the Rapid Cut Pro 350.
Yeah, and so what Mobster means is 4 different compounds. There's 2 different testosterone esters themselves. So you have the
Yes.
You got the Tranase 75 milligrams. You got the drostanolone, which is the Masteron propionate at 75 milligrams, and then you got the Test Prop and Test Sip. So this is a really good one. That's the reason it's called Rapid Cut Pro, is because it's boom, it's in your system quick. So you got the Tranase in your system quick, you got the Masteron in your system quick, you got the testosterone in your system quick, and then it's got a little more testosterone cypionate, which will kind of pick up as the cycle goes on and kind of peak in the system a few weeks ago. So this is a really good one if you want to try something a little different. Now with this one, all right, even if though it's called Rapid Cut Pro, a lot of you are going to use this and you're going to blow the hell up on it. So this is a really interesting one that you'll be able to actually bulk on it and recomp on it and potentially cut on it as well. This depends on how you react to these different compounds. Go ahead, Mobster.
Yes.
What's the next one? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my next one here, Steve, is their blend 450. And I would actually say this is somewhere between a bulker and a strength enhancer. I've talked about how my buddies loved testosterone in Enanthate. And of course, I'm a fan of Deco, especially when it's used in combination with SAS. This particular one is a combination of the Enanthate and an Androlone decanate. And in the ratios are spot on here, Steve, with the Enanthate at 250 and the Deca at 200. And they even give you some dosage suggestions underneath. And because they've got the ratios right, you don't have to go off and mix or add or put anything else into the product. So, for example, they're suggesting that you can use the dosage on a test E anywhere between 250 to 1,000 milligrams a week would be useful. And I would say probably the 250 is 500 milligrams would be right. And the Deca, they're suggesting 300 to 800 milligrams a week. But if you look at the ratios, they've done the work. So you haven't got to go away and buy anything else and add it to the product. You've just got to work at what you think the dosage of those two in combination would be, and they've got it together for you already in the product. So is it a mil? Is it a mil and a half? You need to do that once a week. You need to do it twice a week. They've got you covered. Now, this for me, again, I'm thinking specifically of the Deca here because my buddies did incredibly well in the enanthate, and I always did well on Sustanon, which is, of course, a mixture of esters and Deca. This is, for me, would be a both combination, as I said already, of a strength enhancer, but something you can bulk on really, really, really easy, Steve. So for me, that would be an absolute golden one right out there. I always say this because I want to make sure that I might be blowing smoke up Euro-Pharmacies' arse. I always say this. I'm not a huge fan for some users, this would apply, of high potency, high dose products. Now, if it was a singular steroid and it was 400, it was 450, it was 500, the high potency per mil can cause, for some users, a little bit of discomfort, not full-blown post-injection pain, but a level of discomfort. And that's just the potency of that product per milliliter. So anything that's up around 400 milligrams, even in combination, some users, especially those that are not experienced with products, need to keep an eye open, make sure that they're okay, try it, see if they feel okay with it. If it's no problem, you carry on using it. If it is a problem, stop using it, use something else. That's just plain good old-fashioned experience and common sense. If it was done in the pharmaceutical industry, it would have been, why is it being done now? And then again, personal experience. So, for example, Steve, I can't say that I've had PIP issues, post-injection pain issues with any Euro-Pharmacies product I've ever used. I am more likely, and I said this on another show recently, to be a cat-handed old motherfucker who's bending over sideways with a starting bit of pin in my ass or my leg or whatever. And it's more to do with me moving a goddamn needle around while I'm trying to push the injection in than it is to do with the actual product itself. So that comes down to potency of product per milliliter, any response to oils or alcohol, and in my case, just could be better technique. And indeed, my last cycle that I used the injectable, the bulker, when I got to 336 pounds, after the first couple of injections, my technique got better because I hadn't done it for a while and I had no issues. So there you go, Steve, on that particular example. Any other choices, Steve, before we carry on?
So we did a podcast about ACH with Euro-Pharmacies, which was Evo Hardcore 2.0 number 32. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. But it's a really good one. This is a really good opportunity in 2024, especially those of you who are getting into your 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, who are listening to this podcast. You get to the point where your recovery just isn't the way it is before. You're looking for something a little to help you with anti-aging, but you don't want to spend $1,200 a month going to an anti-aging clinic and getting HGH, but you really want to try it. I'll give you something which is a tenth of that price, okay? A tenth of that price, HGH. That's legitimate HGH. And that's the Euro-Pharmacies Eurotropin. And you can get 10 vials, which are 10 IUs each of this stuff. And it's extremely affordable. Even if you're a working class stiff like Mobster and myself, you can still afford this. And listen, it's not like the old days, where Mobster and I would get HGH back in the day and have to use 4 IUs, 5 IUs, 6 IUs just to get the recovery aspects and the basic HGH benefits. You can get this Eurotropin and just run 1.5, even 1 IU. But I mean, 2 IU is the max even for these types of benefits. And this stuff will help. So if this is something for 2024, you've always been curious to try ACH, give it an honest run for like 3 or 4 months and see what kind of changes that you could get to your physique. And listen, this is a really, really good opportunity to grab this stuff. Of course, if you're a competitor, competitors run the tons of ACH Mobster, you know that. But like if you ever want to try it and you haven't before, 2024, it's a great opportunity to grab a kit, a few kits, and run this for 2, 3, 4 months and see what kind of benefits you get. But make sure that you're handling this stuff good. As soon as you get it in the mail, it needs to go in the fridge. Even before mixing, it needs to go in the fridge.
This is one I use. This has actually become a daily go-to for me, Steve, and it has been for 6, 7 months. I've been using one of their SARMs, which is a super recovery formula, MK677, 220 milligrams, should I say. And I've been using it for, as I say, 6, 7 months. Might even be close to a year now, Steve. And in fact, indeed, a buddy of mine, I got him onto this to try the same thing, and come back to me going, we're going to get some more of this. So that's how cool it is. Now, my example was a couple of years ago, and again, this is old man lifting weights for a long time kind of shit. It comes with the territory. You get injuries, you get tweaks, you get issues with technique, and so on and so forth. So I started to get restrictions in my shoulder, aka frozen shoulder. Okay, and it takes, goddamn, when I looked it up, Steve, anywhere between 18 months to 2 years to recover from. You've got to do more mobility work. You've got to keep flexing. You've got to keep, warm up. It's a lot longer than it used to be, and so on and so forth. So I do a little bit of research, obviously, on the forums, talk to guys like Steve, and say, what can I do that's going to help me recover? A buddy of mine got me some cortisone, and it helped a little tiny bit. It was nice that he helped out. Talk to others about mobility work, which I've done, and I continue to do my warm-ups, as I said, a lot better, specifically for the shoulder to make sure I'm good to go on press it and bench pressing. And the only other change was the addition of the super recovery formula. And I take one single 20 milligram pill every day, all goddamn time. Now, I'm not using it for appetite increases, although I did get that very briefly right at the beginning. Hasn't seemed to have made an issue for me. Otherwise, I'm not using it for other purposes, which I could do. So I could use it for different reasons and a different way, and I could manipulate my diet more, and so on and so forth, which is what some listeners might need to do. But for me, it has, in addition to everything else I'm doing, shown an improvement. And again, the increase of me up to my personal best ever on my bench press when I have had to deal with a frozen shoulder is a good indication for me that the fucking product works. So some of the listeners, 2024, if you want to help fix the old man shit that's come from years of pounding away in the gym, and maybe you don't want to go down the growth hormone route, have a look at this particular product as a way of slight increase in your growth hormone levels when you're using the product, as a way of helping with the recovery from injuries, pushing hard in the gym, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, in combination with diet and training, improvements to skin, health, and so on and so forth. And of course, using it at the same time as growth hormone, if you can, for short periods of time, while you can afford to do so. Something else, Steve, and I'll touch on this very quickly before we get to the last few bits, tips and techniques, and finish the show, is price for growth hormone is kind of been where it has been for absolutely ages. And I said this on another show recently, right? So not only do you have more accessibility to growth hormone than you've ever had before, but the price point is about where it was 5-10 years ago, which in real terms means it's fucking cheaper than it's ever been. It's because accessibility has grown, because the quality of product has grown. People are specific in terms of testing, where the product comes from, sourcing of the material, and so on and so forth. And so that we've seen the ability for people, Joes like Steve and I, the ability to afford it, and products like MK677, Super Recovery Formula, being out there and available to us when they weren't 5 years ago, Steve, never mind 10, 15 years ago, and making the changes to quality of life, helping with changes of recoveries and injuries, and going in the gym and being able to push hard in a way that you never was able to do before, is better now than it has been from before. If the price is the same, in real terms, that means it's cheaper because everything else has got expensive at the same time. So just keep that in mind, guys. I think that's fantastic. Tips and techniques, Steve. Listen, any cycle and any product, including a couple of the tips I actually gave when we were talking about products, come from you keeping everything in the gym on point, pushing hard in the gym. Come to the forums and run a log. And if we say, listen, you really need to up those weights, up the weights. If you're not doing bodyweight plus on the squat, why aren't you doing bodyweight plus on the squat? If you're avoiding the hard exercises and only doing the easy exercises, your results will be better when you do the hard work. When you put the work in at the table with the knife and the fork, when you use solid products like Euro-Pharmacies to help your cycle, to help your training cycle and your PD cycle be a success. We love that, and we want that to happen for you. And Euro-Pharmacies is out there giving you innovative products, making shit happen, putting good stuff for you in the things that the product that turns up intact all the time, does exactly what it says on the label, no frills, no fucking around. Out there every single day, pushing hard to be a solid ass company that's to support you in your goals. You put the work in the gym, you put the work in the kitchen, and your results are going to be amazing. We want your 2024 to be the best year you've ever had, Steve. Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view and based on our experience and views on the topic, and podcasts for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.